good evening to everybody on the line here. We are so excited to be here just before the US and our holidays start, so just before the Thanksgiving holidays. So thanks everybody for joining, taking time out of your busy week to come with us. I'm excited to touch on a topic that we haven't really spent a lot of time talking about. We've spent, this is probably our 115th or so webinar video. We spent a lot of time talking about a number of subjects, but really haven't touched on this one about CPQ. And one of the mysteries we're going to resolve here with our guests' help is what in heaven's name does CPQ stand for and what is it? So we'll get there. Hopefully everybody here, so maybe I see my friend Jim is on the line, just let me know. Hopefully everybody can see the slides and hear me okay. So, you know, we have a welcome, we'll get in there, we'll do some introductions. We'll talk about, surprise, surprise, CPQ, configure, price, quote, and find out why does it matter. We'll talk about some of the business values and then wrap it up with some key takeaways for everybody here. Quick reminder from Rosie the Robot, the session is being recorded. So, you know, you're here, but feel free to share with your friends and family around the Thanksgiving table, but really share with anybody else. So we are recording this. Ask questions if you have any throughout the webinar. We don't hold it off until the end. In fact, sometimes your questions help us, you know, really direct and get things moving. And then, of course, you can check out our other webinars. And how can you do that? Well, you can go to our website and check out a lot of great content. We have a new chat AI engine that can help you find content that much more easily. So go ahead and check out that. You can certainly write to us at info@bramasol.com or check us out, as I said, on the web. And we have a lot of solutions across the Office of the CFO and across SAP, along with customer stories and that. I am so excited to be here with a couple of handsome guys. You guys have some really good photo shots here. This is some good stuff. I am John Froelich. I'm Senior Vice President here at Bramasol. I do a lot of these webinars and talks and things, and I'm super excited to have back my colleague and friend, Richard Chan. Richard, welcome.
Hey, thanks, John. Hi, everyone. Richard Chan. I'm the Business Transformation Advisor at Bramasol. Spent more than 2 decades working at SAP on the topic of quote to cash. Happy to be here.
Excited to have you in Milan. I love your picture, Milan Rajkovic. Hopefully I got your name right, Milan.
All right, John. Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. Pretty excited to have this CPQ chat today.
Yeah. So we will dive right in. So why are we here and what are we talking about? And I thought it would be interesting. This is a slide that we use as Bramasol to tell people about who is Bramasol. And on the right-hand side over here, you can see a circle or a flower, as we like to call it. And we talk about the digital solutions economy, and we've spent a lot of time in many of our webinars. In fact, Richard and I just did one on entitlements. We've had them on supply chain and logistics, digital supply chain, for example, and fulfillment. And of course, as everybody knows, we have dozens of webinars and activity around compliance and reporting, RevRec, leasing, all of that kind of stuff, and of course, finance and cash management in the treasury, cash management and lease management space. And then, of course, we've recently done a couple different webinars with Richard and one of our colleagues, Navneet, and a few others from SAP about BRIM, quote unquote, or subscription billing. But we really haven't had an opportunity to dive into CPQ, which is such an important part of this digital solutions economy. It really is, to me, the tool and enabler. And so that's why we're here. That's what we're going to talk a bit about. So I'm going to take a second and ask you, Milan, all right, so CPQ, what is it, and why do I care?
Absolutely, thanks, John. CPQ has been around for quite some time, and really the original sole purpose of existence of CPQ is to enable salespeople, resellers, and distributors in the field to configure product services, solutions, and make sure that what is being configured and quoted can actually be fulfilled, shipped, and invoiced to customer, the prices is correct, and preparing documentation that can be proposed and sent to a buyer as a proposal or a quote. That was 30, 40 years ago. Since then, CPQ has significantly evolved. And today, when we actually talk to our prospective customers, they all actually having a wide variety of items and tasks and problems they're looking for CPQ to solve. So if we go to a couple next slide, I just want to share with our audience some of the topics that we hear from our customers. Well, obviously, in today's day and age with technology, the line between B2B and B2C definitely blurred, and all of our customers and users are expecting in B2B world to have exactly the same personalized commerce-like experience. So everybody expecting quoting to be like Amazon, fast, quick, 2 buttons, and I'm out and done.
There you go. Well, you can buy if you can only buy SAP that way, right?
And here's really the topic I want to dive a little bit. And in addition to configuration and pricing and correct quoting, one of the common topics that most of our customers are looking for is time to onboard salespeople. Today we don't have a luxury to take our sales force out of the field, put them in a training room for 2-3 weeks at a time, and educate them on product, on our pricing modules, on our services, on our approval process. So onboarding and making the salespeople productive much earlier in their career is one of the CPQ tasks, where idea is the guided selling, the process defined and rules put in CPQ will enable even junior sales rep to be correct every single time. Obviously, we all want to address poor customer experience, as we know that the first impressions are lasting one. So if the customer receives our quote late, incorrect, and not quoting products we're looking for, that experience carry on and definitely will impact the buying decision. All the salespeople are busier than ever. Everybody wants to be much quicker and effective. It's very important that quotes are correct. There's no error while we're actually building that. And one of the really top topics that we are talking to our customer is how to come to the optimal price, right? How to actually to negotiate price by coming to the right price earlier in the sales cycle, by shortening the sales cycle, but also providing some of the science to our buyers and explaining how we arrive to a pricing point. So the discounting is not based because the sales rep is at the end of the month and he or she would like to make a quota, or customer tells this is the budget I want to do and this is where I need to be, but actually provide a bit of intelligence into the discounting strategy and impact to the margin as well. Obviously, today we're all selling to all over the globe, so solution has to be multinational, multi-currency, has to be in different languages. And one of the key topic is to improve the time to market. Our friends in product management and product marketing and pricing are becoming more and more creative. So changes to our product and services that we're offering to our customers is changing daily. So that operational tasks of continuously having correct product and service catalog, so the sales reps in the field do not have to worry, hey, is this product correct? Is it still available? What is the effectivity date of the solution? Actually enabling organizations to very quickly deploy product and pricing changes, as well as the sales process changes into the tool, so that experience is always correct and seamless. So those are some of the topics and challenges that CPQ is addressing nowadays, and our customers are actually looking in addition to the traditional CPQ role.
Yeah, that's great. You know what, Milan, you brought up something that I don't think we traditionally think about, and we always think about the experience from the perspective of, you know, improving the customer experience, right? Allowing the customer to get on and match and create their own bundles and feel like they're in charge, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. We talk about the ability for the product owners to put things out there or offers out there that are mixed. But I had never thought about that whole thing about time to onboard. You know, with a well-executed CPQ tool, you can make the job easier for onboarding account reps, also easier to make sure that they don't miss something when quoting something to the customer. I know back in the days before we had a good CPQ, the customer always loved when we came back and said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you about this SKU that we needed to add for this product," right? And they were like, "Well, why didn't you know that before?" So I love that, right?
Absolutely. And I think if you look at the profile, our sales forces are becoming younger and younger. So if you look at average salesperson nowadays, early in their career, they never actually deal with the product catalogs. You know, when you have those 1,000-page catalogs on our desks, when you go to page 540, and then accessories are on page 675, and then warranties on page 900, they actually all born and raised and educated in digital age, so they trust the tool. They also have expectation the tool actually will be providing them everything they need to know. So that's also a very important component in making the younger sales reps successful.
Yeah. Yep. And I think in the future, maybe one topic we'll touch about is how AI can do that. We won't do AI. I've been AI'd out this week, so we'll focus on the tool today. Richard, you have a lot of experience out there. Certainly in your 20+ years of SAP, talking to customers, particularly about BRIM, subscription billing, and all of those tools. You and I talked about this, and you thought, "Oh, this is a great topic." What did you hear from customers that make you believe this is a great topic and something we need to think about?
Yeah, John, thanks. Just working with different clients and a different enterprise, and of course we can't assume that every customer that we engage with run all SAP. Some of the concerns the common concerns that I get is usually integration. How can you integrate this solution with non-SAP system? Of course, some of the misnomers that you must run SAP in order to use the SAP CPQ. Is that where we are? Have that been, I guess accomplished in terms of it is a standalone, or where are we at with that, Milan? Is it
it's a good question. Definitely, there is a lot of misconceptions and myths out there in the field. SAP CPQ is standalone tool. It's built and developed on stack. It does connect, obviously, out of the box. It has productized integrations to a lot of SAP products, S4, BRIM, Sales Cloud, and so forth, VC and AVC. But SAP CPQ can definitely act as a middle office for any CRM and any ERP solution. So connecting and standing up CPQ as a tool is not necessarily required or prerequisite to have SAP ERP.
That's great to know. Great to know.
Good. All right. Well, moving right along. So CPQ, where does it, Milan, I love this. I like this diagram. It's it shows CPQ at the center, which I think is kind of cool. Talk a little bit about how CPQ fits in this overall commerce to fulfillment process.
Yeah, clear, Jim. So I mean, I've been using this slide for almost 20 years, and really the question that most of our buyers now have is, what is really the role of CPQ in my organizations? And 20+ years ago, CPQ was sold as a standalone solution. It's being utilized as a standalone solution. Over the last 15 to 20 years, I think most of the sales organizations are using some kind of CRM upfront as a starting process into the lead management, opportunity account, and context management. And then when you talk with the CRM organizations, they will tell you, well, CPQ is kind of extension of the opportunity. It's part of the sales cycle, but a lot of time they feel that once the CPQ creates a quote and convert to order, that is where the world of CPQ stops. When you talk to a lot of the ERP companies, they will tell you, well, the role of CPQ really is to kind of guard the order entry system, so we don't get any garbage into the back system. So put CPQ in hands of the sales rep, they can play and be creative, but at the end of the day, anything that can come from CPQ to ERP is clean, correct. It can build, manufacture, fulfill, ship, and invoice. The reality of CPQ is actually has to have both of those roles. And where we actually see CPQ in position quite well is CPQ kind of being the middleware, if you will, sitting in the middle office, connecting the front office tools and the back office tools. When the sales rep or partner or distributor starts the journey in CRM has a wealth of data around that opportunity, that account type, historical purposes, and so forth. And all the information is critical for effective and quick quoting in CPQ. What product and services I can offer to this company or account? What pricing I'm using for this geography? Does this level of customer deserve additional discounts? Can I actually bundle certain product and subscription and offer to this customer or that geography? At the same time, CPQ is very rarely a master of product and pricing. Typically, that comes from ERP, and it's being consumed in CPQ. From the eyes and world of the sales reps, I really don't care where the product data comes from. I don't care where opportunity data comes from, but I do not want to re-enter the data. I don't want to go fish for data. At the time of building the quote, I want this experience to be very seamless. I want to be intuitive, and I want to be correct. And at the end of the day, I want to be a superhero who actually upsell and cross-sell the customer, who creates this very powerful proposal where I'm actually responding to exactly what the customer needs. I provide a reason, values, outcome, and benefits that my buyers will see from my product, and I clearly communicate that value. And that's, we'll talk more about it, how CPQ achieved that. But at the same token is, as I'm building my quotes in CPQ, CPQ in the background updates my CRM. So now my opportunities are updated, my pipeline and forecast management is correct. So I don't have to forecast anymore based on a feeling of the sales rep, what she or he feels that my seller buy. Actually, data that is being sent to the customer quote is data that's being updated in opportunity. And at the same token, as the quote gets converted to the order, all the quoting data, video account data from CRM is being pushed to the back office onto the order. And really having this connectivity and linear data flow gets the customers and companies in this nirvana state that the very same data that is on sales forecast is the same data that's on a quote to the customer, is the same data that's on a sales order, and it's going to be the same data on an invoice to the customer, right? And that's extremely important. Over the last 4 or 5 years, there's a huge trend and need for commerce-like tool to consume CPQ. And there are a couple of folds for that. One, obviously, companies are not having a product catalog for direct sales, different product catalog for partners, and third product catalog for existing customers who actually can come through a commerce channel. So really, as you're managing your product, services, subscriptions, and pricing logic in CPQ, you definitely have to have a permission layer on top of that. But that's the very same data that needs to power the commerce channel. And commerce channel is extremely important when you talk about self-service of existing customers. I'm buying additional licenses. I'm buying, extending my warranty. I would like to buy spare parts. So making all that experience in commerce with self-services is extremely important for CPQ. Second token of that commerce and CPQ integration is that you're actually enabling buyers on their own through commerce channel to learn about product configurations, bundles, solutions, services you can offer. So the buyers can actually get educated without intervening and dealing with the salespeople. And that becomes a great source of quotes. And a lot of times we're seeing customers who actually have requests for quotes being generated from the commerce channel. That the person by themselves can browse the catalog in commerce, find out the bundles and products and services, but then actually would like to request a quote. Either they need something else, different prices, they would like to set up different contracting, but they can also be a source of leads for quotes and initiating the quote process from the commerce.
Makes a lot of sense. And also, you talked a little bit about it also facilitates. So, all of that front end activity, absolutely. But I notice in here, we talk a lot about, there's lines about here for negotiating and contracts and et cetera, et cetera. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So obviously, in today's day and age, nobody's buying anything at a list price anymore. So negotiating the price in the contracts and terms is very common practice. And in the CPQ itself, there's a lot of elegant functionality to manage revisions and multiple proposals being sent to the customer on the same opportunity that actually provide organizations insight in how long the sales cycle really take place. What are the steps in sales cycle? Why the sales cycle is so long or short? What can be done in measuring different campaigns and finding how to impact that? But obviously, from CPQ, a lot of times there needs to be a contract created and generated. So once you complete your commercial negotiations, CPQ kicks in, send data to some CLM tools. That's why we have this third-party cloud here in the middle of the screen, where they can be a third-party or SAP CLM solutions that you can actually send the quoting data, initiate a contract in place, and then continue running that. One more topic I want to mention here is a lot of the back office tools. Having a SAP family of products, using customers using SAP products for 50 years, there's a lot of investments in the back office tools. And idea is how we can actually leverage a lot of that and protect our customer investments so they can continue to utilize that. So 2 comments about it. One is a variant configurator and advanced variant configurator. Very powerful configuration tools, have been for more than 20 years part of the SAP family, and it's doing great job for managing manufacturing bill of materials, manufacturing processes, routings, and so forth. Challenge or shortcoming of those tools, those are not sales tools. They lack a little bit of the flashiness and sexiness, if you will, and sales tools to make it really sales effective. But nevertheless, many companies have invested significantly in building their product model. So we have productized integration to those tools where we actually can expose AVC and VC models in a CPQ, so the sales rep in CPQ can consume them as is. And the last point I want to make about BRIM is subscription billing.
Richard, are you there?
Selling and subscription billing. Everybody love recurring revenue and predictability. And sorry. Yeah, and the challenge of selling services, obviously, and subscriptions, complexity of that is not just the initial sale, but really the ongoing management of subscription, upgrades, downgrades, additional licenses, co-terming the contracts, and so forth. So a lot of customers are spending and investing heavily in figuring out how to bill and invoice customers for such services. But then once you figure it out, the question becomes, well, how are we going to sell such a complex subscription services? And that's where CPQ integration with the BRIM and S4 comes in place, where whatever you have built and designed a subscription in BRIM can be consumed as is in CPQ. So you don't have to re-implement. You actually just connect the tools, and then your product out in CPQ become extremely powerful, but containing data from item masters, from various configurations, from BRIM, products model in CPQ, and enable salespeople to be very, very creative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you cut out a tiny bit in the middle there. I thought it was maybe me because I'm in a hotel here, but just to replay that, I think what we're hearing, certainly is, CPQ provides a powerful tool at a level for doing things that the AVC, the advanced variant configuration and variant config do, and you have the capabilities of exposing those tools in more, for customers who have invested a lot in that, so CPQ can take advantage of that. But also, there are situations where CPQ makes sense versus, some of the more advanced and complicated tools out there. So, absolutely, makes total sense.
Right.
Yeah, Milan, I had a question. Some of the clients that we work with, they're concerned about acquiring CPQ tools, especially around lag time, handling large quotes. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. That is one of the most critical component of CPQ, and what we have to keep in mind, and we at SAP continues to remind ourselves, CPQ is a sales tool. At the end of the day, it's not used by operation daily, it's not used by manufacturing, it's not used by warehouse management. Those are the sales reps who are in the field, who don't have a lot of time, who need to quickly create proposals and quotes. And a lot of times when we deploy CPQ tools, there's a lot of operational requirements for getting data from multiple sources, providing approvals from many different systems. But when a salesperson sits in CPQ and build a quote, that all this gets accumulated and actually showcased as a challenge. So hence, we from SAP CPQ perspective, very early, we made decision that actually CPQ will be built on its own technology stack. So we are not built on CRM stack or S4 stack. We're not built on commerce stack. CPQ is built on purposely built technology stack to enable configurations and pricing. As you can imagine, CRM tools are extremely powerful, but they do millions of linear relationship between objects. I have so many opportunities, so many accounts, so many contacts, and I'm building those relationships, but really that engine doesn't provide the computing. Same thing is with ERP and S4s. There's millions of objects and different functionality in there, but none of them are demanding real-time computation and results in the screen in real time. So we actually, everything we develop and build is done with performance in mind, and we continuously redesign and upgrade components of our architecture to stay on top of that and to enable that perfect user experience. So for the last 7-8 years, we have been leader in Gartner Magic Quadrant, and Gartner has write up about our SAP CPQ as the engine that actually has the most complexity, but has also the best performance out of all the vendors in the space.
It's fantastic. You know, and that, Richard, that was a great question. And I also love the question. So you designed it as a standalone tool in part because it will, you know, we put up here, and of course we love it when everybody uses S/4HANA in, you know, as their ERP. We'd love it if they were using, you know, SAP's Cloud for Sales and Cloud for Commerce and all of those tools. But the reality is often they're in somewhat heterogeneous landscapes, and you know, you've built a tool that kind of integrates into that very well, regardless. And in fact, you could, I would assume that you could have companies that have multiple ERPs in the background for, you know, different manufacturing plants or different organizations, and CPQ can share the data interface with both of those to provide a seamless back-end experience, right?
Absolutely, that's a great point. And reality with most large enterprise customers out there, through merger acquisitions, they actually end up with mixed bag of tools. So there are multiple CRMs, there are multiple ERPs, and even if it's SAP ECC, you know, we have customers that actually different manufacturing locations have different versions of ECC and S4. So even that is not consolidated. Reality is, although most customers have an appetite to consolidate and go with a single ERP and single CRM, reality is most of our enterprise customers have multiple CRMs, multiple ERPs, and CPQ sits as a single layer in between, connecting all of them and intelligently collecting data and displaying orders as needed.
Makes sense. All right. All right, we spent a lot of time on this slide, which is why I loved it, because I think it's a very powerful slide. But one of the things that I think, you know, we always hear from customers and we hear, you know, about SAP is, wow, it's hard to use, or wow, it's hard to, you know, it's just complicated. And I think I loved in your slides, and when we talked, I love this graphic because it's intuitive. I think it's really kind of a very interesting model, and maybe you can talk a little bit about the flexibility of it. Not only is it flexible from the user perspective, but it allows flexibility as you look here in the people who are designing the models, if you will, or the algorithms that set this up, right?
Yeah, and that's a key component, right? Usability and flexibility and how quick I can build a quote. So obviously the Amazon model of find the product, quickly search the catalog, browse, compare the products is imperative. So we have structured our solution as well. The first step in any quoting process is find the product and services based on the customer needs. And that product catalog can be long or short, but has to be effective. And when I say effective is the different user profile might have a different needs. So if I'm a distributor who's selling this product once in 3 or 4 months, I need a lot of hand handling. I need images, I need descriptions, I need guided selling. Help me match, find a product based on customer needs. I really don't know what products are all here in catalog, what is new, what's obsolete, and what's retired, but I know what my customer needs. So help me, guide me through the process to find the products. You also have experienced sales rep who don't need any of that. They said, I know exactly what customer needs. Take me quickly to that product configuration and services, bundle that so I know what it is. So idea is that a catalog can be personalized and using the permission layer can drive and display different data depending who the user is. Obviously, availability of the products. Maybe I'm in Canada, I cannot sell products that go to Latin America. Also, the pricing that's being displayed here, as well as components. I'm selling a server rack and it's going into a EU data center. Well, I cannot use US power cords and power adapter. It has to be specific based on the count that I have in there. So all those components come into the product catalog to make sure that based on user profile and permissions, the product, services, and bundles that are presented enable me to quickly get there. And one more final topic is really building my own favorites. So if I'm a medical sales rep and I'm selling operating room equipment, 80% of my buyers, the hospitals, kind of start with the same configurations. But that's different than my rep in Chicago area, for example. So what I can do, I can start configuring the solution and save it as my favorites. So I can call this Milan's configuration, save it in my favorite. So next time when I'm building a quote for a similar hospital, I don't have to start from scratch. So it also provides efficiency and time saving, where I can actually have pre-configured a number of solutions that I can quickly add to the quote.
Yeah, and you could do the same. So even if you had your favorites because of that, or if you had your favorites because you sell to Mayo Clinic on a regular basis and they order pretty much the same thing, you can say, oh, here's my Mayo Clinic order for a blood testing equipment. I already have it all set up because that's kind of their standard order. So that's a great thing too. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then finally about a catalog, what even many companies have similar products where you actually can use guided selling and you can specify customer needs, and guided selling can actually guide the salesperson to say, okay, this 3 solution can solve the customer needs, but then you might need to compare those solutions side by side. Before you start configuring and making really detailed selections, you need to understand out of those 3 solutions, all 3 of them potentially can solve customer needs, but which one is the best? Is this the component? Is it the price? Is there some certain options in delivery? And the catalog actually provide really B2C functionality to the B2B users, where you can compare configurable solutions side by side.
Right, and one of the things you talked about, so there's simplicity, but there's also in the background a lot of capability for quote unquote complexity, right? Which is, the last bullet point is nested configurations or linked configurations. I know, we as RevRec experts run into this all the time, where you have nested and linked, POBs in multiple layers, and SAP is, if I remember, the Gartner said that's one of the strengths of our solution is it provides more functionality than most in that space, right?
Absolutely. We have some of our customers who actually sell, for example, HVAC controls for a building. So I might have a quote where I'm actually quoting controls for 30-floor building, and I have to configure each floor. And maybe the floor 1 has 3 conference rooms, 4 offices, and maybe 20 cubicles, and I have to configure each single one of them. I can copy the whole floors, but maybe how I configure conference room or room 1 on floor 1, I can copy this to floor 5, 10, and 14, right? But then next time the same customer calls me and say, hey, Milan, you know what? We're actually remodeling floors 3, 4, and 5. Can you just quote me conference rooms so I don't have to quote everything else? So that concept of nested configuration is powerful for reusable models, but also that makes the complex configurations simpler. Also, if you envision customers who are selling data centers, I'm selling a data center that has 2 floors. Each floor I have 2 server rooms. Each server room has 15 server racks. Each rack has a server. Each server is configurable. But I can also sell just server by itself. I can sell a rack by itself. Now imagine, we have customer in Germany like Deutsche Telekom. They sell a data center. Their quote has 10,000 line items, right? So not only it's hard to build and configure that, but think about managing such a massive quote. I build a quote of 10,000 line items, sent to my customer. Customer reviews that, comes back and says, well, Milan, you know what? On that room number 2, rack 7, the actual inverter NIC card is not correct. Well, rather than me going through 10,000 line items, we actually have a tools that actually help me find that item quickly, replace it, change it, copy it, reconfigure it, edit it. So not only building and managing this nested configuration, but how to actually manage this proposal, how actually deal with this on during the sales cycle, and how I actually present it to the buyer so it can be consumed in understanding the value that I'm proposing.
That is fantastic. I'm going to ask you a question in a moment about getting information, and Richard, then I'm going to ask you to comment on the context of what you and I have been doing now together for a while, and even just as long when you were at EY and SAP, right? Is these complex organizations with bundles, right? And Milan, help me make sure that I'm accurate and help people understand. I can, let's imagine that we use subscription billing in the cloud to create our subscriptions. I can include the various, I would assume I could include the various subscriptions from subscription billing into this configuration tool as part of a more complex bid. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the power is that the catalog that you've seen here can be built for physical products, services, subscriptions, but I can also bundle all three of them. And the part of that is, you can imagine, pricing strategy about physical goods versus pricing around the services, contracts versus subscriptions are way different. How they're managed, pricing components, negotiations around them. But a lot of time, buyer doesn't want to get 3 quotes from rep, right? I don't want to buy physical goods from one quote, then I can negotiate my service, and then I get my subscription. I want to have one quote. I want to issue one PO. I want to have one internal approval on this. So the power of the CPQ solution is that any products, regardless of they're managed, whether it's subscription billing or BRIM, AVC, VC, or just item master, or they actually build and manage in CPQ, they're actually presented to the sales rep in a catalog. And sales rep, frankly, doesn't care where they come from. All I care is that I can pick the product, I can pick services that goes with that, I can get subscription that goes with that, along with that, and I can actually present them and build them as a single proposal to my buyer.
Wow. So Richard,
Yes.
Go right in. Yep.
No, just do we also want is the capability available to include entitlements when you so there are some products that have entitlements? Can that be a part of this entire bundle?
It can. We do not have today. We don't have productized integration to SAP entitlement tools, but they can be used through APIs to build those links as well. A lot of times, entitlements are designed to manage the tokens, items that are being sold, and customer being reusing them. So definitely can be part of the quoting system, but it's not productized out of the box integration today.
Okay.
So Richard, from your perspective, as we talk to customers, we've got a whole bunch that we're talking to, right? This is pretty powerful. What would be your takeaway for a customer?
I think we just have to convey the message that integration, if it's SAP or non-SAP, is available and it's not complex. More importantly, I guess the lag time. Some clients are really concerned about, creating huge bundles or huge offers, and there's a lag time to actually present the offer to the client. But what I've heard so far is very promising.
All right, so a lot of flexibility, a lot of opportunity. We talked about the ability here, and we're going to get into here. One of the other features that the tool provides, Milan, is this idea of, we've talked a lot about, our own mind of single channel, right? A customer coming in, but this supports multiple customer, multiple channel specific pricing, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is the power where our SAP CPQ engine differentiate product, service, and subscription configurations from pricing. So you can have managing and maintaining your powerful configuration catalog, but price that being consumed and presented can be driven by any factor, such as who is the sales rep, who is the account I'm selling to. As we all know, customers might negotiate some specific pricing with us. So maybe for this particular items, the customer has pre-negotiated price. For other items, it doesn't. Depending on the customer level and types, what is time of the year? Do we have any promotions and special pricing available? So the beauty of that is the very same configuration that's being consumed by different reps for different accounts will be priced differently. And the beauty of this, the sales rep, if I'm building a quote, I do not have to go and find out, hey, does my customer has negotiated prices of certain products? What products are negotiated in that contract? What is the expiration date for the contract? CPQ actually in the background make all this heavy lift for the sales rep. So all the sales rep needs to make sure is that actually customer needs are being included in configuration, but price will be picked and selected based on all of those different parameters and be driven and correct every time that the quote is being built.
And because it's rules-based, it has a very intuitive way of getting you to that decision-making in those points, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And anecdotally, I always tell a story to our customers. In 2016 and 17, internally at SAP, we have consolidated a number of CPQ tool into our SAP CPQ tool. And obviously, selling our software has, some complexity. Our services are extremely complex. But what was extremely complex for us is our sales process. During the implementation, we discovered that internally at SAP, we have 100,000 approval rules that any deal can potentially go through, right? So if it's a Thursday and it's raining and it's not end of the quarter and Packers are in the playoffs, this person has to approve that. And we were kind of, laughing, scratching our head. Are we trying to create sales prevention tool or sales enablement tool, right? But idea is that the business needs are extremely cumbersome. And although we have consolidated a lot of rules, reality is that we do have a lot of approvals for different geography, for different customer types, different products and services. But that all has to be put in tool in place. So at the end of the day, as a sales rep propose and build something and send to the buyer, that has to be internally blessed and approved, so actually the customer can place an order against that. So that is another challenge and complexity. As you can imagine, such approval process, even not just product and pricing, but you have regulations. We have a tariff nightmare, right, where tariffs are changing daily. Take care of that. So all of this has to be in place, and the sales operation teams have to make sure that CPQ stays on top of all of those complexity. But the sales rep does not have to experience that. That experience has to be seamless, fast, and effective, regardless of the extremely hard work. I remember seeing a presentation 10 years ago, and one of the analysts was explaining what the CPQ looks like. It's like a duck that swims in a pond, right? It's on the surface, it looks like very smooth sailing, but underneath it's pedaling extremely fast. So that's what's happening here at CPQ. The engine is a lot of horsepower and doing a lot of heavy lifting, but the sales rep doesn't experience that.
Yeah, and to that point, the other thing we talked about is there are also guardrails, right? It's wonderful that you can have people go in, you can create different prices, you have the capability of adjusting those prices, but you also have guardrails, things like margin protection, right?
Yeah, and there are two aspects of that, right? One is how to enable sales rep to quickly negotiate a deal. So there's a lot of times you might have to negotiate a deal on line item level. You might have to negotiate a deal by product types. I want to give you discount on all the servers, or maybe I want to discount the training, or maybe I want a spare parts discount, or maybe I need to negotiate the deal on a total quote level. This is my customer budget for this quarter, and I have somehow to fit within that. So SAP CPQ provides a variety of tools how to negotiate the price. Discounting guardrails are dynamic, right? So it can be based on a sales rep, based on account, everything else. So it's not static numbers that actually can be configuration rules on the guardrail on the discounts. And last point I want to make on this slide that it's definitely the huge differentiator is most of the sales reps are one way or another judge their performance based on the margin. But most of the sales reps have no idea how they impact the margin because none of us are displaying cost to our salespeople, nor we giving them the margin numbers. So what we have introduced probably 7, 8, 10 years ago is a margin health. So if organization loads, in addition to price, the cost and the margin, profit margin targets, we actually can display indicators. It just shows to the sales rep what is the health of item, of product types, or the total quote based on a financial rules of the organization. So now I'm becoming a superhero because not only I'm discounting the deal, but I can actually make adjustment and understand if this is a good deal or not good business for us. But it also gives me indication of the likelihood of the approval. So if I'm asking for something that's in a red margin, most likely my approval channel will not approve this. And I can also build discounting strategy based on the margin. So for example, if I have 100 items in my quote and my customer has 1.5 million budget, I don't have to readjust every single line item to hit the margin. I can actually go in a total quote and say, okay, my goal is to hit a budget of 1.5 million. And I'm going to say, hey, SAP CPQ, please calculate the discount for every item that's going to be allocated based on the margin I have. As you can imagine, different product and line items will have different margin health. So CPQ can intelligently allocate discount based on the target price. And now I haven't 30 years career in quoting, I haven't seen a salesperson who's able to calculate a discount per line item based on the margin. In a second, sales rep is achieving the target price where he or she wants to be to win the deal, but then allocation of discounts happen on the margin. That's huge. Typically, discount allocation and margin happens most of the time in most organizations after the order is being received. I'm sorry?
Yeah, no, I think it's a huge optimization tool.
So that,
what it's doing is it's running a dynamic optimization tool to figure out where the discount makes sense to optimize the margins, right? And then you have the, am I really going to get away with this? And all of that. I think it's fantastic. And the other thing I just wanted to say is, for those of you who will listen to this in the future, if you're a RevRec guy, you're going to listen to this and go, that's really interesting, because you could use this tool in connection with creating your standalone selling price information for your revenue recognition. So that's another reason why to have such a tool like this. Let's continue on. I think the other thing you talked about, this approvals, I don't think we need to spend too much more time on here, although it does have a process for making sure that your deals are approved and you can follow where it is in that approval process, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. All right, and then of course, when we talk about ERP and we talk about S/4HANA, we talk about the end game, and of course the end in mind is, yes, you can do all these quotes, but you can also, through the tool, create some pretty nice looking proposal documents, right?
Yeah, and that is a huge benefit. Usually, not understanding by our customer and buyers how this impact the whole sales cycle. If you look at all the analysis being done during the sales cycle, when our buyers have the most attention talking to us is when they ask us for price. So a customer calling the sales rep, give me the quote, give me the price, give me a quote, give me the price. And a lot of times sales rep are short on time. They don't have a discipline to build something or knowledge. They will quickly send the price to customer and they lose opportunity to explain the value, to upsell and cross-sell. So what CPQ does is we're actually using our configuration engine to assemble very content-rich document. So now sales rep has to match the product and the service needs based on the customer, come up with a price, but then the engine takes over and say, okay, is this a net new deal? You have to include this information. If this is a repeat customer, you have to include different information. You can include the right white papers, you can include value selling, you can sell outcomes, you can explain to the buyer what a difference if they go with me versus my competitor. And in order for sales rep to build something like that will take them days, if not a week. But now in the CPQ, in the seconds, you come up with this extremely content rich, but not just any content, right? It's content that's specific to this quote and that buyer. And that is a game changer. That actually set up the customer satisfactions, that actually wows the buyer, provides all the answers, and actually explain to the buyer why they actually have to make selections that go with your proposal or your competitor.
Right, and I see we have global templates, and we only have a few more minutes left, but the idea of global templates, we talked about the idea way back or a little bit ways back in this conversation about having your favorites that you can have bundles of and say, oh, this guy, buys this bundle. But if a proposal for Mayo Clinic for a blood analyzer requires you to have certain documents, you have the opportunity here to create that proposal template that you can then say, all right, well, I have to buy 10 more of these things. I bring up my proposal document, everything is easy peasy, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And these are all templates that are designed in Microsoft Word, so you don't have to be a programmer to design them. So sales operation loves that because they have full control. They help the sales rep being productive, but also daily operational management of this is very simple because all you need to know is to use Microsoft Word to control the outputs and outcomes of your proposals.
Right, and then you can spit them out in PDFs or whatever format you need. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, well, Richard, any comments before we go with takeaways here?
You know, John, I'm just wondering, I just can't see why companies, especially with a huge sales staff, wouldn't take advantage of this. I can see from a compensation standpoint, as a sales rep is preparing bundles and discounts, et cetera, they have an idea of their commission. So I wouldn't, yeah, this would be a great opportunity to incent sales to utilize this tool.
I love it, and I think something maybe, Milan, we can follow up with you on with this is I think we have some videos that we're going to share in the email that follows up from this presentation. There's some videos, there's some content that we'll send out to the folks here as well as others who didn't get a chance to join. But at some point, you know, what we've talked about here is, and some takeaways is, you know what, CPQ is absolutely crucial to me. You know, I was excited because as I learned and talked with you, Milan, and learned a whole ton here, to me, this idea of the digital solutions economy where you're putting more and more power into the hands of the customer is amazing. But you need that strong, I call it protection, but you need the strong guardrails in the back that make sure that you're not selling something you can't fulfill, and you're giving the customer, you know, the best price and opportunity. So, you know, that's a key takeaway from my perspective. CPQ and quote, it's the beginning of the journey, and I think it, by allowing or using the tool, as you said, Richard, you can create and improve customer lifetime value by making sure they have everything that they need, and, you know, offering things like, you know, customers like you who have this also buy this because they like that piece. It can increase revenue, it reduces costs, improves flexibility. But what I love that you said earlier, Milan, is what we don't think about is the sales force. It just makes things that much easier for the customer and for the sales force, right?
Absolutely, and you know, if you talk to salespeople in the field, they do not unfortunately see much value for CRM. CRM is a great tool for management. We understand what is the pipeline, what opportunity is being moved out there, but sales rep really doesn't get help from CRM to close the deal. When you bundle CRM and CPQ provide outcomes and tools to sales rep that physically help them close the deals. So we actually have seen many customers who actually utilize CPQ to leverage improving adoption of the CRMs, as a sales rep typically feel exposed to the CRM. So absolutely, that bundle is extremely important. But also, as you said, most of the CPQ buyers now, they are not looking just to solve the quoting process. They're looking, hey, is this solution really going to fit in my entire landscape, right? Because we all talk about data and AI, and in order to achieve that, everything has to be connected and sharing data rather than individually replicating and creating those silos of data. So that's also an important component to understand how you easily incorporate all of this into your entire strategy and IT landscape.
Perfect. And then, you know, finally, we talked about, you know, the powerful tools, the process. I love the graphical UI and the guardrails and tools. I would assume that, you know, there's a lot of great reporting. We didn't get to dive into that, and maybe we can do that in a subsequent webinar and talk about that. I also would love to hear in the future, you know, about scalability, right? You know, it has complexity, but at the same time, you know, it's scalable. So you don't have to be IBM to take advantage of this tool. A lot of smaller businesses do as well, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. We do have enterprise level SMBs, mid-sized companies. So absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Milan, it has been my pleasure. I have learned a lot here. So thank you for your time. Richard, as always, a pleasure to have you on. I know that we both learned a lot out of this, which is the goal of of webinars, right, is to learn. So I want to thank you both. I want to thank everybody here for joining, and I hope everybody, you have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Milan.